USA's F-22 Raptor, the invisible ghost fighter. Picture this. It's 2005, and a formation of advanced enemy fighters is screaming toward friendly territory at Mach 1.8, their pilots confident in their state-of-the-art radar systems and beyond visual range missiles. Their screens show clear skies ahead, nothing but empty air between them and their targets. What they don't know is that death is already among them, invisible and patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In the span of 30 seconds, 4 enemy aircraft simply vanish from existence, their pilots never knowing what hit them. The attacker? A ghost that shouldn't exist according to the laws of physics, the F-22 Raptor. This isn't science fiction. This is the reality of 5th-generation air warfare, where the most lethal fighter ever built operates in a realm beyond the comprehension of its adversaries. The F-22's genesis traces back to 1981, when the Soviet Union was fielding increasingly sophisticated aircraft like the MiG-29 and Su-27. American intelligence had identified an uncomfortable truth. The next generation of Soviet fighters would match or exceed the capabilities of anything in the US arsenal. The Air Force needed something revolutionary, not just better, but fundamentally different. The Advanced Tactical Fighter, ATF program emerged from this realization, demanding capabilities that seemed impossible. An aircraft that could supercruise without afterburners, remain invisible to radar, and defeat multiple enemies simultaneously while operating deep in hostile territory. Two titans of aerospace engineering, Lockheed and Northrop, rose to meet this challenge with designs that would redefine air combat forever. When Lockheed's YF-22 first took flight on September 29, 1990, test pilot Dave Ferguson later described the experience as flying 20 years into the future. The aircraft didn't just meet the requirements, it shattered them, demonstrating capabilities that seemed to violate the fundamental principles of aerial warfare. Here's where the story becomes almost supernatural. The F-22's radar cross-section is classified, but experts estimate it's roughly equivalent to a marble, or in some aspects, a large insect. To understand how revolutionary this is, consider that a conventional fighter like the F-15 Eagle has a radar signature roughly the size of a small car. Imagine trying to track a marble flying at 1,500 mph while that car-sized target sits motionless on the ground. That's the challenge enemy radar operators face when confronting the Raptor. But the F-22's stealth isn't just about shape. It's a symphony of engineering perfection. Every surface angle, every material choice, every internal system has been optimized to absorb, deflect, or scatter electromagnetic energy. The aircraft's skin contains radar-absorbent materials that literally drink incoming radar waves. Internal weapons bays eliminate the massive radar signatures created by external ordnance. Even the engine exhausts are designed with flat, rectangular nozzles that mask the heat signature and reduce radar reflection. The psychological impact on enemy pilots cannot be overstated. In training exercises against allied nations, F-22 pilots report that opposing air crews often become increasingly erratic and desperate as they realize they're fighting an invisible enemy. Radio chatter typically evolves from confident tactical communications to panicked calls of, "Where are they?" and "I can't see anything." While stealth makes the F-22 invisible, supercruise makes it untouchable. This capability, sustained supersonic flight without afterburners, was considered impossible by many engineers when the program began. Afterburners consume fuel at catastrophic rates and create massive heat signatures visible to infrared sensors from hundreds of miles away. They're essentially giant shoot-me signs in modern aerial warfare. The F-22's Pratt & Whitney F-119 engines generate over 35,000 pounds of thrust each, enabling the aircraft to cruise at Mach 1.8 while sipping fuel like a subsonic fighter. This fundamentally changes aerial combat geometry, while enemy fighters must choose between speed and stealth. Burning afterburners to chase supersonic targets and announcing their presence to every sensor within 200 miles, the Raptor maintains tactical invisibility while operating in the supersonic realm. But here's the tactical revolution this creates. The F-22 can engage targets, go supersonic to escape retaliation, then return to subsonic flight and disappear from enemy sensors, all while the enemy is still trying to figure out what happened. It's not just air superiority, it's air dominance through supernatural mobility. The most terrifying aspect of the F-22 isn't any single capability. It's how these systems work together to create an absolutely lethal combat platform. The hunt typically begins long before enemy pilots know they're in danger. The AN/APG-77 AESA radar can detect targets at ranges exceeding 125 miles while operating in low probability of intercept mode, essentially seeing without being seen. The radar's electronic beam can track dozens of targets simultaneously while appearing to enemy warning systems as nothing more than background electronic noise. By the time hostile aircraft detect they're being tracked, AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles are already in the air, covering the distance at Mach 4. Here's where combat becomes clinical execution rather than dogfighting. The F-22 launches its missiles from positions enemy fighters never expect, above, below, or to the sides of their formations, then immediately changes course and altitude. Enemy pilots typically have less than 20 seconds from missile launch to impact, and they're trying to defeat weapons fired by an aircraft they can't see from a position they can't determine. In exercises against friendly nations, F-22s routinely achieve kill ratios exceeding 20.1. That's not just winning. It's redefining what aerial combat means in the 21st century. But perhaps the F-22's most underappreciated capability is its sensor fusion system, the electronic brain that transforms raw data into tactical omniscience. The aircraft doesn't just see enemies, it understands the entire battle space in real time, processing inputs from radar, infrared sensors, electronic warfare systems, and data links to create a three-dimensional picture of threats, opportunities, and friendly forces. This system can identify aircraft types based on flight patterns, predict enemy intentions based on formation changes, and even suggest optimal attack geometries based on current tactical situations. F-22 pilots often describe the experience as having supernatural situational awareness, knowing not just where enemies are, but where they're going and what they're planning to do. The tactical data link system allows multiple Raptors to share this information instantaneously, creating a distributed sensor network where individual aircraft become nodes in a larger intelligence system. 4 F-22s operating together don't just multiply their individual capabilities, they create an emergent intelligence that can process and respond to threats faster than human cognition allows. Here's where the F-22 becomes truly terrifying from an adversary's perspective. Its ability to operate in heavily defended airspace where other aircraft simply cannot survive. Modern Integrated Air Defense Systems, IADS, create overlapping zones of surface-to-air missiles, fighter patrols, and early warning radars that can detect and engage conventional aircraft hundreds of miles from their targets. The F-22 doesn't avoid these defenses, it ghosts through them. The combination of stealth, supercruise, and advanced electronic warfare capabilities allows Raptors to penetrate deep into hostile territory, eliminate key targets, and escape before enemy commanders understand what happened. In simulation after simulation, F-22s have demonstrated the ability to destroy strategic targets that would require massive air campaigns using conventional aircraft. This capability creates a strategic deterrent effect that extends far beyond the aircraft's physical presence. Potential adversaries must assume that their most critical assets, command centers, strategic weapon systems, key infrastructure, are vulnerable to F-22 strikes regardless of defensive preparations. It's a psychological weapon as much as a physical one. But the F-22 isn't invincible, and understanding its limitations reveals the complexity of modern aerial warfare. The aircraft's stealth is optimized for engagement radars in the X-band frequency, but lower frequency radars can sometimes achieve detection at reduced ranges. More concerning for tactical planners, the F-22's stealth is significantly compromised when carrying external fuel tanks or weapons, configurations sometimes necessary for extended-range missions. The maintenance requirements are staggering. The stealth coating requires careful attention after every flight, with specialized facilities and trained technicians. A single F-22 costs approximately $44,000 per flight hour to operate, roughly 10 times the cost of legacy fighters. With only 187 aircraft built before production ended in 2011, every F-22 is irreplaceable. Perhaps most critically, the F-22 was designed for air-to-air combat during an era when air-to-ground precision strike was becoming increasingly important. While capable of ground attack missions, the aircraft lacks the payload capacity and sensors optimized for close air support or strategic bombing missions that define much of modern air warfare. Despite these limitations, the F-22's combat record speaks to its revolutionary capabilities. In operations over Syria, Raptors demonstrated their ability to operate in contested airspace alongside advanced Russian air defense systems. The psychological effect on potential adversaries was immediately apparent. After F-22 deployments, hostile air activity typically decreased dramatically as enemy pilots simply refused to challenge areas where Raptors might be operating. The mere presence of F-22s in a theater changes the tactical calculus for every participant. Enemy fighters must assume they're being tracked and targeted even when their sensors show empty skies. Surface-to-air missile operators know their systems are vulnerable to an aircraft they can't detect until weapons are already inbound. Even civilian air traffic controllers report unusual patterns as military aircraft alter their routes to avoid potential F-22 operating areas. The F-22 represents more than just another fighter aircraft. It marks the end of aerial combat as we've known it for over a century. The romantic image of pilots engaged in visual-range dogfights, maneuvering for advantage through skill and aircraft performance becomes irrelevant when one fighter can kill multiple enemies from beyond visual range without ever being detected. This capability gap has forced potential adversaries to completely rethink their approaches to air warfare. China's J-20 and Russia's Su-57 programs represent desperate attempts to match F-22 capabilities. But both aircraft remain years behind in critical technologies like sensor fusion and stealth materials. Meanwhile, the United States has moved on to the even more advanced F-35 Lightning II and is already developing sixth-generation fighters that will make the F-22 look conventional. Today, nearly 3 decades after its first flight, the F-22 remains the world's most capable air superiority fighter. Planned upgrades will keep the aircraft operationally relevant through the 2040s, ensuring that this invisible ghost will continue haunting the nightmares of potential adversaries for decades to come. But perhaps the F-22's greatest achievement isn't its combat record or technical capabilities. It's the peace dividend created by absolute air superiority. When potential enemies know they cannot challenge American air power, the likelihood of major conventional conflicts decreases dramatically. The F-22 Raptor isn't just a fighter aircraft, it's a guardian angel, keeping the peace through the simple reality that no one wants to fight a ghost they cannot see, cannot track, and cannot defeat. In the end, the most successful military systems are those that never need to prove their capabilities in combat. The F-22's mere existence has prevented more conflicts than it has fought, making it not just the world's deadliest fighter, but perhaps its most effective peacekeeper.